Picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome back. It's week 4 on the shuttle set build, and I have to say I have been delighted in the fact that this project seems to have struck a chord with so many. I've gotten a lot of good feedback. I've gotten some good ideas. I've gotten some really good ideas, and I've gotten some ideas that I just can't do because this is where I was last week, or when I was saying I have too many ideas. I want this to be a model of the shuttlecraft being filmed on a set. That's the goal. And if I'm not careful, this is going to turn into a model of a set that happens to have a shuttlecraft in it. And that's not where I want to go. I'm trying to keep that balance between building everything. Some folks have suggested craft tables. Some people have suggested makeup tables, things like that. And it's like, that's not really the mission statement. And I'm of the opinion that this is far enough back in the 60s that they might have had, like a coffee maker or a percolator and a donut on the table. But these were the heydays where everybody went to the commissary to eat. So I'm not assuming there's going to be a huge craft services set up here or makeup chairs. So we're going to try to keep this as simple as possible and not let it get out of hand. I will be adding some more cables and ropes and things like that. I started today painting up the director's chairs that I had printed last week so that I could get them populated around the set. And then I'm going around and painting up my little dudes and dudettes. I've had a lot of people say, well, why don't you put a Gene Roddenberry in there, put a Lucille Ball in there. All wonderful ideas, but outside of the actors themselves, I'm not trying to go for any particular person's likeness or anything like that. These are going to be generic, certainly generic studio folk. So that's where I'm at today. I am starting to glue down, actually, I want to glue down some of the props, get them accounted for, get them definitely set up so that I can have them accounted for, and I can go on and do something else with the rest of the space. Like I want to go ahead and make sure my actors are set up. And the one last piece of construction that I need to do today, and that's where I'm getting back to, is that I need to construct the little hammock. I'm calling it a hammock, the sling, the thing this piece would sit in. And it's basically just going to sit up against that wall, but I want it so that it's not sitting on the floor of the set. I want to build it up a little bit, just put it in a little holder. So that's the last real bit of construction before we get too much further down. I might, since it's a simple enough thing to do, build like a craft table or some sort of little table that go here. I don't know what I'd put on it, maybe scripts or something. But I don't want this to start going haywire, so to speak. So welcome back to it. I'm hoping this will be the last week on it. I really think that it should be. I don't think that there's too much more work that needs to get done. Stop it. Too much more work that needs to get done on the set. Yeah, I think we're ready to close down for today. Now, you're not going to see a lot of difference. You're not going to notice a lot of difference from the last time you saw it. But what you're not seeing is the glue. Yes, the very adhesive, the stuff what sticks, the glue that is actually starting to hold down some of these pieces that were only standing here before. They are in fact glued. The camera's glued down, the boom operator is glued down, the executive is glued down. The camera operator has not been, because I'm not 100% finished with his paint job yet. I just built this wee little table, little folding table that's going to go here, and perhaps it might have some scripts or something that I can lay out on there that might that might populate the scene a bit. But we are, oh, I've also got this wall here. Let me can't pull the camera up. Yes, everything's a mess. This wall is now screwed to the wall. It's glued down. It's got the front of the Galileo sitting here. I can remove that. But what you might not see is I've got some pegs with the C-clamps hanging from them and some rope hanging from that. And I'm going to work more on that type of stuff, where I might make a cleat going across the wall here that might have some ropes and some cables hanging from it, just to dress up those back walls some. And I think we are getting very close to having at least our final elements in place, and then it'll be a question of tacking them down. I resist doing this, but I think I may have to, and that is to actually glue the characters into the chairs. If not, I can at least glue the chairs to the ground. I'm talking about our actors. I might want to leave, I might want to not glue those down, and then that way I can position them in the shuttle should I want to, but I kind of like them out there. It's all going to be a question of how delicate this thing is going to be. Once everything is done, the parts that are glued down will stay, but if, like, this back wall is never going to be glued in place so that I can move it out, maybe my principal actors will be done the same way, but I will glue down the stage hands and all of that kind of stuff. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. It is Tuesday, and as you can see, I have removed the main set from the table because it was getting very cumbersome to work around. And I think it's going to be easier for me to concentrate on the bits that need to get done if I can have just those bits on the table here. And as you can see, scattered as they may be, there's not that many more left to go. I'm working on people today. I've also got a little bit of work left to do. I've got to paint these sandbags. And there they go. That's pretty much it for this panel. And we can move that off of the table. Same thing with this ramp. Again, working on people, places, and things today. So, starting with the cameraman or the director of photography or whatever. He's a fancy guy. He looks kind of like a blackjack dealer, but what can you say? I believe in the three-piece suit method of work. So he took his jacket off, but still has his vest and his his white frilly shirt on. Looks kind of, if you look at the face, he looks a bit like Patrick McGowan. I have been discovering likenesses in these characters that this is what you do when you've got too much time and you're staring at these little faces. You wonder if they were designed with anybody in particular in mind. This guy here kind of looks like David Duchovny, so I've painted him up like Fox Mulder. So this is the stuff that's giving me little spurts of joy. Alrighty, so I've been painting little people all morning, and I've come to this particular case that I thought was worth bringing up. I have this fine lady. This fine lady who started life as one of Keith's Moonbase Alpha women. And it's a lovely seated character. It's got nice plain clothes, and by plain I mean it's not distinctive. It's not frilly. It's not a short skirt. You're not locked into any one thing. It's the basic Moonbase Alpha bland beige pantsuit, which, being late 70s, mid 70s, and this being mid 60s is not that far off. But it's a fine character. The hairstyle is nice. So I wanted to use it, and I wanted to use it so much that I used it twice because it's a great figure, and I could mirror it and get two figures out of it. So what I've decided to do is lean into that idea. Now, these are basically painted. I'm going to clean them up. Lean into that idea and make them a set of twins. Not that they are let's see, not that they are studio people, but they could be extras from an episode. Not even an episode of Star Trek. They could be, have wandered over from the Lost in Space set or anything, anything that was in production at that time. But I'm leaning into the colors. Although once I started painting it, I realized the red hair may be wrong, and it may be looking a little bit too much like Daphne from Scooby-Doo. So I think I'm gonna darken up the hair. But the bell bottoms actually work. The bell bottom pants work, and I dremelled off the comm lock and painting up the belt and everything else. But I think once we get the dimensional color in there, I think those are going to work. What I do is I paint the basic color in, and then I go in and start shading and putting in the highlights and the shadows and that sort of thing. So I'm putting in the basic colors at this point. And then we've got these two gals, which since I came up with that idea, I really don't want to have two sets of twins on the set. I think that's begging the issue a little bit. So I like this particular character. She's printed probably better than the other one. Although, let me check the... no, this one's got better... Nah, that one's got some ugly stuff. This one that's printed better. So this one might be the one that stands next to this guy who I've given... I don't know whether he's actually the actor who played Abraham Lincoln visiting the set with his Lincoln beard, or whether he's just rocking the Gary Kurtz look with that the Amish beard with no mustache. But something to differentiate him, because this also is a character that is duplicated somewhere else on the set. Once you get one good design, it's hard not to take advantage of it and make a couple. So I'm laying in basic colors now. Here's where you can see, like on this kid's jeans, his overalls, I've got the basic blue laid in, but then I'll go in and paint highlights over top of the seams and then some shadows in there. So he's also in work. I think what I need to do now maybe is go around on all these chairs and do a highlight pass on them. So and I found this guy, and this was an interesting thing. This was an experiment. I found the seated guy who's reading a book, which is perfect. And then I basically sat him on top of the chair in the Cheeto box, in the software, and then printed it all as one thing. So he's actually seated in the chair, printed as one piece, but these were two separate files. So we're going to see how well he paints up. And as much as I would love to throw in just tons of color on all of these things, a lot of the guys are wearing basic drab suits because it's, basic drab 60s, unless you are, executive 60s, not hippie mod laugh-in 60s. Oh, that could be it. It could be on the laugh-ins. They could be refugees from the laugh-in set. That would work because they would have been dressed up in very mod colors. Yes, that's my reasoning, and I'm thinking that laugh-in was. Well, see, I know Carol Burnett was in production at the same time. I'm trying to think. Laugh-In might have been in production at the same time. So we'll go with that reasoning. But, we're slowly making smaller and smaller circles. Believe it or not, I finally got a ceiling for the back of the engine room of the shuttle. So I'm also working on that, and I'm going to cut up this frame that I made a few weeks ago to fit that, and maybe put another piece of screening in there to throw some lights. So it's going well, but I'm just going around touching bits and bobs, and then trying to keep my stupid thumb out of the wet paint. So we're closing down on Tuesday now, and doing some cleanup here. We're to the point where you're not seeing a lot of tremendous change because it's a lot of little stuff that I'm painting. But I've got 3 of the figures done. I've got the other ones well underway, and we should be knocking these out fairly soon. The problem is when you start painting all these tiny little things and you realize you have to let them dry because you're painting wet paint on next to something else that's very wet paint, and you're running out of other little things you can be doing while you're waiting for that paint to dry. So one thing I did finally manage to get done was the ceiling for the back engine room of the shuttle. I don't think you've seen this guy yet. This is the one that I had molded into the chair, and I'm kind of liking his green suit. I got to paint. I could do some of that now. I could paint the actual material on the seat itself. Got this guy more or less done. I'm kind of liking his beard, but we might do something else with that. I don't know. These two gals, I don't know if that magenta is working out as well as I wanted it to. I got a lot of values here that are the same. Her skin tone is not standing out from the pants and that kind of stuff. So we may be playing a little bit with that. And made up another rope. That's no big deal. That's just some twine and some CA. So tiny little things like that. Alrighty, it's Wednesday. Welcome back. It's time to route some power. And I've got the power coming out of this wall, and I'm going to put it into a box here that has a switch on it and a jack on it. There's nothing new or innovative about that. It's just something that simply needs to be done. Using this massive old flip switch here, and trying to make use of a container that I got from Paul. This was what one of his boxes of LED strip came in, but I'm just going to attach it to the side and wire the switch in the power jack. So I'm heating up the soldering iron, and we will get right on that, and then it will mount to the side wall just like that. And I'm going to start finalizing some things, because I think we're down to the that part of which we need to not be touching stuff anymore. I pulled out some thin gauge wire that I'm going to loop up to make some stuff to go on the back wall, just to dress it up. It doesn't have a particular purpose. And we're going to start going around everything for like the last time and make sure everything is finally where I want it to go, and start gluing stuff down. Got this gentleman finished yesterday. I'm getting ready to glue him down to the near camera position. And we're going to start, again, no disrespect, but we're going to start checking off little bits here, and touching them for the last time, and before we call this whole thing finished. Okay, here we have the world's most basic switch box you'll ever see. Power coming in. One wire goes to the switch. The other, or the hot wire goes to the switch, and then down to the model, and this is the ground wire going straight through. But hit the switch, and all the lights come on. So amazing. After 4 weeks, we finally have a wired in switch. Alright, so I've been working on the back wall, and boy howdy, that would have been a lot easier to do if I'd have had all these wonderful ideas before I nailed the shuttlecraft down and actually did the wall as a separate thing, because it's kind of like, oh, I don't know, putting a subway into a city after you've already built it. It is not the most logical way of doing things. But I think it's coming along. I've got some wire of different colors. This green would be garden hose, because sometimes you need, water. So we've got garden hose, we've got electrical cord, we've got camera cables, we've got different gauge, we've got a couple of ladders in there. I think it dresses up the wall without stealing too much attention. I have nailed down the extra lamp that's here. I think I'll throw some more coils on the floor, just how you would, toss things in the corner. I've got this bundle of rope that I can put down here. I think I'm going to put that in the back corner, and see if we can slide this around now. Get a kind of an idea of what it's going to look like. So there's your back corner. That's the area I'm talking about. So a couple more bundles on the floor, and we'll call that area done. And I've got the assistant cameraman, or the cameraman, assistant director, whatever. Got him glued down now. Still working on finalizing what's going on out here, but starting to narrow my focus. So that's a helpful thing. Once I can narrow a focus and concentrate on just an area, then I can move to the next one without getting overwhelmed by the big picture. Okay, here's something interesting. I hope you think it's interesting. I basically put all the walls back in place just so that we could see what it would look like. I've got the back wall in, obviously. I've even got the front wall in, but I don't have the windows, the window inserts in. Let me pull that out. This is what the window insert would be. It would fit in the front of this, which I have temporarily put in place, but now I'm going to put that back on its little carrier on this wall. So that's back in place. Now I wanted to make sure that when everything was in place, that these elements here that I'm getting ready to glue down, that they can exist here. Now the only things that aren't going to be glued are going to be this back wall, so that I can move it off to the side. That would sit like that. The ceiling, of course, we can just move up here and out of the way. The main back wall, this has to be pulled out. Yeah. See, that can be moved back and around. That tells me that that director's chair might need to be moved. Move these guys a little further down before I glue those chairs in place, because that's where that wall would exist there, that wall would exist there, and we can move the crab dolly back here. This is the ramp that comes out. That would lean up against the wall here, and that tells me that these guys, where they're sitting, would be okay as far as gluing those chairs down in this table. I'll move that table in a little bit because I think I want to fit this chair in behind. But yeah, and then of course you are able to tilt this up to look inside. So it's never. So I originally was going to glue this roof down, but I think I like being able to kind of prop it up like this and see what's going on inside. Good morning, everybody. It's Thursday. It's the gateway to the weekend, and I have to tell you, fatigue is setting in. I am done with this kit. I really want to be done with it. There's not too much left I can add. I'm to the point where I need to make some final decisions and start nailing some stuff down and be done with it. I have to decide whether I'm going to make the floor of the set dirty, or the stage dirty, or not. It does look a little clean, but it's one of those big roads that once you start going down, forever will it consume your destiny. So it's where do I start, where do I stop, how much do I get away with? Can I put a simple wash on things and get away from it that way, or not? And to do that, I have to remove everything that is not nailed down, so that I have a clean slate, as it were, to do that kind of work. So let me remove everything that does not have a specific place to go, and we'll see what we're left with. Oh no, that's not good. That's not, oh, the humanity. That's not good at all. Let's put that camera back on its stand where it belongs. We've got the power cord going down to the base. There we go. Plug that back in. Oh, I see what's wrong. There's actually too much play in that wire. It's pushing it up out of the way. There we go. So we put that there. Move the crab dolly out of the way. I've also remembered that sometimes people will want to throw down these little non-skid mats. So I've just cut up some mats that I can make out of the adhesive felt, and I will stick those down. This, all of this stuff, including this guy here, this bundle of wire, this gentleman reading a book, and these guys are all temporary. So I slide all of that stuff off, and I've gotten this clean area of stage. So I think what I'd like to do is to go ahead and put one more big splash of like oil spill or petrol spill. Let me see if I can find it here. That's rust. That's petrol. That's not exactly what I want. The black washes are not exactly what I want, but it's kind of the right idea. And I'll maybe put some staining along the floor, let that dry, and then go back in and put the pieces back in that are going to be there permanently. If this were poured concrete, you would imagine there might be some stress breaks in here where you would have a slab of concrete here and a slab of concrete here, and that might give me some visual interest if I were to just scribe a line in there and then let the weathering kind of hit that. So let's do that. And I'm not going to try to put any cracks in the floor. I think that's one rabbit hole I don't want to go down. But I think if I can create some visual interest in here with a single scribe, then I ought to do that. Okay, I think that's got it. I did some scribing and then a little bit of wash staining to break up the floor pattern a bit, and you can either call that coffee spills or oil spills or any number of viscous fluids that might be on a sound stage. But I think that what that's going to do is it's going to break up the visual plane of the floor and give me some interest in areas that might not have enough interest by themselves if you didn't have that. So now that I'm happy with that, I have to decide which things are going to be movable and which things are going to be permanent. I believe that this dolly is going to be movable. This wall has to be movable. This ceiling and this wall is movable. So everything else other than that is going to be permanent. I'm sorry, this camera would have to be movable because when I move out the back wall, I would move the camera into that place. So that's movable. That's mobile. Let's just call it mobile instead. These guys and this table here, this vignette, is going to be permanent. So I need to make myself happy with their final look and go ahead and glue those down. And I have to decide what's going to be on the table yet. I'm thinking some scripts or there's really not it's very tiny detail, and I don't think I'd be able to paint like the clappers where they have the take 3 and there's a clap. I don't know whether I'd be able to get all that kind of detail on there. I'll see if I could print something that small, but I wouldn't give it too much hope. This dude here, I've been working on making him live there with a rope to the side, and I need to have something coming out of his box, but he could be permanent. This guy, and let me see, there was a chair, there was a blue chair, yes, here it is, the blue chair on this side with this lady in it, making sure her feet are going the right way. That would all be permanent. And then I need to put one of these little stage weight / apple box type of things under their feet so that their feet look like they're resting on that because they don't quite touch the ground. Which leaves this lady in this chair. She could be like that on the other side of the table. And that allows me one more semicircle of director's chairs here, which would be for Mr. Decay, Mr. Koenig, and Miss Nichols, so that they can be talking to the guy that's on the crane. And if I glue the chairs down, even if I don't glue the characters into the chairs, then I can envision a scene where the characters are in the shuttle, but that puts me on something like that, and then that gives me space to put this wall here, and then I can move. I can still have this wall behind it. If I have taken that wall off the back of the engine room, I can still stack that wall in front of it. Okay, and then I can put that back in place. So most of the time this will be back in place here. That'll be back in place, and then I can push this wall back. Okay, that still gives me room. So now that I've got these guys mapped out, I can go ahead and make a little dot on the floor where they're going to be and glue them down. Okay, almost everything is glued down now, and it only took me 2 things to learn a lesson and smarten up, or 2 objects. I glued the table down and it was a pain, and then because trying to put a little bit of CA on the bottom and getting it to line up, after about the 3rd thing I realized, I need to sand the bottom. If I sand the bottom of the legs of the chairs with this nice hefty sander, not only does it level them all off and give me a flat space for them to stick to the floor, but also it knocks the paint off and gives me a piece of bare resin to glue to rather than gluing to the paint. So these guys are all glued down now. They're not glued to the chairs. That's the next fateful step, but at least the chairs are glued down. This guy will never be glued down, and these walls won't. And I also put a big old oil stain on the floor there that maybe it's coming out of the crab dolly here. Maybe there's a hydraulic fluid leak or an oil leak or something, but it certainly has the supporting actors riled up because they're all pointing at it. So that is the last step that remains. I need to make myself happy with these 2 twin gals and their paint jobs, and I've got to think of something that's coming out of this box that this stagehand is working on. Maybe I'll put some wiring or something coming out of there, and then glue him down, and we'll be ready to break a bottle over it. It'll be done. There may be a touch or 2 that needs to get done, but by and large I think we are finished. I got these non-slip mats down, and they're not going anywhere, and of course other than the parts that will get moved around so that I can show off details, I still like being able to lift this up and show off the detail that's in there. But that's it. That's how it's going to be. So hate to say it, but we are rounding the final turn. Okay, I think I'm down to a very small punch list of things. I need stuff to put on the table here, and I need something to come out of his box. I don't know exactly what those things are yet. Very good suggestion of having some tribble props in there. That was left on last week's comments. Excellent idea, but I don't have a way of doing that would have the right texture. I could do little stones or something that would maybe be brown like tribbles, but they wouldn't be flocked. They wouldn't be hairy, and I think that might lose the idea of what they were supposed to be. Although I'll give it a shot and see how it looks. Okay, I think that might work. I had to go sort through my aquarium stones to find some that were not only suitably brown, but also round and not looking like stones, but looking more like tribbles. And I even included some pink ones in there. And if you understand the inside joke there, please leave that in the comments below. Yeah, I think that'll work nicely. Now all I've got left to do is to finish putting some stuff on the table. Well, good morning, everybody. It's Friday. It's the last work day of the week. It is the last work day on this model. I think, beaten it into submission. It is down to just some tiny details on what's going to be on the table, and maybe one last pass, even though I'm getting too much paint buildup on these figures from painting and repainting them so many times. Luckily, the cast figures, those seem to have gone just fine. It's for some reason it's these twin gals here. I just can't get a face that I'm happy with, so I'm going to end up getting a face that I can live with and be done with it. But I've got everything glued down. I think that is going to be glued down, with the exception of some of these characters. But as I said, I want to touch those again before I'll sign off on it. But I am pretty much done now. This morning I went ahead and did some painting on the outside of the set, just so that the back wall had some sort. It's gray, it's not much different than the color of the plastic, but I wanted to have some sort of color on there that was different than the actual plastic, so it looked finished. It didn't look like raw plastic anymore. And I've got some paint done on the power box. Let me go ahead and plug this in again. Oops, didn't mean to hit the camera, sorry about that. But plug it in like this and hit the big old master switch, and that lights up everything from this side. When I move this around, I find all the stuff that's not been glued down because it falls over immediately, so that's helping me. And I've got a couple little things here like this ladder. I want to go ahead and get that glued down and out of harm's way, because it keeps wanting to fall over. I just need to find the right spot for it, and then I will attach it. But pop the roof off so you can look inside there. Zoom in, because we haven't seen much of the captain lately. He's hidden in a corner that does make him a bit difficult to spot sometimes, but he's there. Alright, so I've just spent the last hour or so making up some tiny items for the table, including some tiny scripts and a collection of headshots. These would be publicity shots from back in the day. You can see these would be Nimoy's headshots, and of course we've got headshots for everybody, including the we've got Shatner, Nimoy, and D. Kelly, and then we have one picture with the other four, because I think that's pretty much how it would have gone back in the day. But there you can see we've got Doohan, Takei, Koenig, and Nichols all in one picture. So these are what's going to go on that little break table that is on the set, and maybe we will scatter a couple of these inside the shuttle itself. And then I've got two of these little clappers, these little directors, they're clappers. They're also called, I'm blanking on the term right now, and you're probably shouting at the screen. Slates, that's what they are. A couple of slates that I'll put one of these up by the front camera, and I'll put another one in the crab dolly. But some tiny details, and I'm sticking them all together with craft glue because they're paper. And I don't want to, I'm using the tacky, clear gel tacky glue for paper. I don't want them to warp all up like you would get if you put something too runny like an Elmer's glue on it or something. Okay, so let's pop these guys on the table, pull a set back in here, pop them on the table, and then see what else we might need to finish up. Okay, so I've got the little PR table all finished up. And I've got the headshots glued down and some scripts. And what I'm thinking, my logic behind this is that this is something that maybe Mage will put out between, just on the set. So like between setups, actors could come over and sign a script or sign something that they could then sell on. They didn't have online back then, but they could sell mail order through Lincoln Enterprises. But this does something, just a little tchotchke table, maybe for visiting guests to the set, that type of thing. I've got the two clappers, the one sitting there, and the one that I was going to put inside very nicely fell into Nimoy's lap there, and I think I'm going to leave it because it does portend Nimoy's future as far as becoming a director. So that having that clapper in his lap, I think just works nicely. And I think I'm going to try one more thing. I'm going to try one more bit, and that is just to put some cabling up on this bit of wall here, and then I think that's gonna be the extent of it. And here it is, the finished kit. Been a long road getting from there to here, a 4-week odyssey, but here you go. Somewhere in there is a round 2 Galileo shuttlecraft interior model kit. It's actually pretty easy to find. It's like right there in the center. But when you pull back the lid, you can see all of the detail. Now I'm going to do some nausea-inducing camera work here, so forgive me. But what I'd like to do is kind of walk you around all of the features and vignettes and see if we can try to take it all in. So first we're going to start with looking into the shuttlecraft. Now I've got all the lights on. Perhaps I need to turn off the overhead so that you can see what's going on in here. But if you can look past our supporting actors into the set, you can see the principals in their seats getting ready for a shot. Here we have the second camera with perhaps either a network executive, a writer, or probably the camera operator, but it may be not. We have 3 very concerned supporting players who are pointing at the oil spill on the stage floor. We've got a couple of extras here that are dressed like twins. We've got not a commissary table, but a PR table, a publicity table with headshots and scripts. And here we have maybe a concerned writer and another executive here. For now we're going to walk around to the front so that we can see what's happening. We're going to look past the prop guy putting away the box full of tribbles. We've got the boom operator checking his to make sure that the recorder is recording the audio. We've got the director and a camera operator here. Of course, Mr. Shatner has a question. You can see him in behind the lighting there. Mr. Nimoy's taking everything in stride. You've got Mr. Doohan and Mr. Kelly in the back there. And let's see, we've got the back wall of the set, of the stage. Now here we have the piece that would go in front of the windows whenever they would want to shoot it that way. You would basically take this part, clamp it onto the front of the ship. That way you could shoot backwards or shoot out the front windows. That's not the way the cameras are set up right now. You would need a taller camera because this camera here is shooting straight across at the actors. But this would sit, and of course it's got a separate insert for the windows. You would put this in from the inside, and that's got a separate place that it lives along the stage wall here with some ropes and some clamps to hold that in place for when it needs to be. Oops, there we go. There, sits inside that little saddle there. We've got some stray cables and lamps, and we've got an extra camera sitting back here. This is all like the garage for extra parts. Here we have the handle that opens and closes the back door. Again, you can see the back door there. You can see some stray scripts laying on the chairs. I had originally thought of making that roof attached permanently, but then I realized how much fun I was having by being able to pull that off and look in, that I decided against that. Here we have the back engine room. Now I've got a ceiling for the engine room for when such thing is needed, but it's also designed so that the back ceiling or the back wall could come off and allow for this camera that I just showed to be filming through the back wall. So we'll go ahead and put that ceiling back on. And then we've got this crab dolly here, which we can move out of the way with the operator. And if we want to put the filming wall back in, we can. Not necessarily something that's easy to do with one hand, but I have noticed that I've got the carpet in the way now, so I think I need to mark that carpeting and remove it, because that is going to be in the way. Everything's been put back together. That is pretty much how everything would sit in a perfect world. So that is the Paramount / Desilu, although I enjoyed when somebody referred to that as the Desilu with an L-O-U, just like the end of my credits always run at the end of the video. But that is the Desilu studio of build of the shuttlecraft, Star Trek shuttlecraft set. Well, my friends, that is it. It's been 4 weeks, but it's been a lot of fun building this set. And I couldn't have done it without Dr. Jeffrey Fink. I heard Phil call him Dr. Fink in the latest video that he did, and I told him I was going to steal that immediately. So, Jeffrey, you are Dr. Fink from now on. Your help was invaluable on making this kit a reality. Everything from the design for the light cans, to the cameras, to the camera dolly, to the director's chairs. Anything I would think up, Jeffrey could whip it up in a heartbeat and have it back to me. That was a tremendous aid. It was a tremendous help. We wouldn't have been able to get near as much of this done without it. And of course, just checking the internet, seeing what's available. Plenty of anonymous people out there whose names I will never know, who put out files. And I was able to pull down some people and the girder, the lighting trusses and things like that, and print those up as details and make them part of the kit. I wanted to thank Jamie at Round 2 for making a wonderful interior kit to start with. I knew there was more that you can do than just simply pushing it inside your shuttle. You could make a whole world with that if you really wanted to. So until next week, when I don't know what the kit's going to be, but I guarantee you it's not going to be a 4-week build. It's not going to be anything quite this elaborate or detailed or labor intensive. This was a lot of fun, but I'm looking for some carefree, simple model building for the next couple of weeks. So until then, y'all be good, be safe, be smart, stay warm. It's fine. It's getting cold out there. Here we are, middle of January, and it's finally starting to get cold around here. So until then, like I said, be safe, be smart, stay warm, and we'll see you here next time.